ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशव वामन कृष्ण पाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुराः सुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः. So now we are in one of the most beautiful chapters and a small chapter which gives the content or the entire summary of Vedanta, which is the 9th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, in which Bhagwan wants to talk about his Paraprakriti or Brahmaswarupam. See, I have already told you that in Vedanta, Ishvara and Brahman are used, interchanged many times as Paryaya Padas. We have to understand one thing, that as a mumukshu goes through the various stages of Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga and Jnana Yoga, in Karma Yoga and in Upasana Yoga, he takes a form, a Devata or Ishvara with form, that is Saguna Ishvara for Karma Yoga, for Upasana Yoga. And that is necessary when a person has not yet, the mumukshu has not yet gone to the stage of knowing the reality of this Brahman. Therefore, when we say Ishvara, in the the mumukshu's sadhana of Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, since Ishvara with the name and form in the form of Ishtadevata is used, we can call it Ishvararpana Buddhi, Ishvara Upasana. But when that same Ishvara wants to be known by a Jignasu, a mumukshu who wants to know the ultimate nature of that Ishvara, that is called as the knowledge of that Gneyam, the knowledge of that Ishvara, which we call as Atmajnanam or Brahmajnanam. In that instant, Ishvara is also called by the name Brahman. So therefore, there is no difference between Ishvara and Brahman. We can say Brahmarpanam, Ishvararpanam. Whereas when we say Upasana, we say Ishvara Upasana. We don't say Brahma Upasana. When we say Jnanam, we say Brahma Jnanam or Atma Jnanam. So we have to understand that Brahman and Ishvara mean the same depending upon the context in which these terms are used. In the 9th chapter, Lord Krishna wants to talk about his Paraprakriti or Brahma Swarupam. Because we saw that in the 7th chapter itself, that there is a lower form of what is called as Prakriti or Maya, which is the matter principle, which is responsible as the material cause, as the Upadana Karanam for the creation, for the sustenance, and also for the resolution of this entire Jagat. But then this Maya or Prakriti, being of an inferior nature and Jada, it needs the support of Para Prakriti. Therefore, when we say Ishvara, when we say Brahman, Maya Sahita Brahman is called as Ishvara. That pure consciousness existence which we call Brahman by itself cannot project this entire manifestation, because Brahman is akarta, abhokta, no matter principle at all, pure consciousness. Whereas Prakriti or Maya or Apara Prakriti is pure matter principle, does not have any kind of Chaitanya in it. Therefore, Prakriti or Maya requires the support of Paraprakriti. You know, Aparaprakriti requires the support of Paraprakriti. Therefore, this entire creation or the manifestation is the work of Brahman, the consciousness or Paraprakriti, and Maya, the Aparaprakriti together. Therefore, we call Brahman as the Nimitta Upadana Karanam. Now, what changes here in the creation? Only the Apara Prakriti goes on changing, whereas Brahman or consciousness or Para Prakriti is the changeless consciousness principle in which the Apara Prakriti is able to go on doing all the vikaras or changes necessary for the projection of this entire universe. It is like the eye of a storm which is silent, around which all the entire storm activity is going on. It is like the axle which is not moving, the wheels are moving on this movementless axis. Similarly, Chetana Brahman, that is consciousness Brahman, which is not changing in any way, changeless, achalaha, kutastaha, sthanuhu, Vedanta calls it. On that principle, basing on that, the Apara Prakriti, under the influence and under the adhyakshatvam of Paraprakriti, creates the entire universe, which we saw in the previous verses. Maya adhyakshena prakritihi suyate idam sarvam charachara jagat. Now, after giving this Brahma Lakshanam from the 4th verse to the 10th verse, what did Krishna do? He talked about two types of people. People who hold on only to the Apara Prakriti for the sake of achieving only material ends. It is only to achieve finite ends, and they keep coming back again and again into the cycle of birth and death, which was talked about in the 11th verse and the 12th verse, which we took up in the last class, which was called Avajananti Ma Mudaha Manushim Tanumashritam. Tanumashritam, Manushim Tanum Ashritam. People who are only holding on to my Apara Prakriti. And who are they? They are Moghasha, Mogha Karmanaha, Mogha Jnana. Their desires, their karmas, their knowledge, everything is a useless pursuit, because they are going after what? They are going after finite ends, material gains, and only holding on to my Apara Prakriti. Now onwards, from the 13th and 14th, in the 14th verse, he talks about the other type of people. The other, Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha bhajantyananya manasaha nyatva bhutadim avyayam. So these people, in contrast to the Moghashas, Mogha Karmanaha, Mogha Jnanaha, whom we saw, those who are engaged in the useless pursuits of gaining finite ends, in contrast to them, these people who want to really know the reality and the truth and the Swarup of Brahman, they're called as Mahatmanaha, Mahatma, Mahatmanaha, Mahatman or Mahatmanaha. Now, who are they? These Mahatmas, He Partha, Mahatmanah tu, Mahatmanah tu, those who are these Mahatmas, He Partha, Daivim Prakritim Ashritaha. They are the people who are sattva oriented. Those who have done enough of karma yoga and upasana yoga and who have enough of chitta shuddhi and chitta naischalyam. They do not have the rakshasi pravritti or the asuri pravritti as explained in the previous verse. They are of a sattvic pravritti. They want to know me in my true nature. So, Daivim Prakritim or Sattvikim Prakritim Ashritaha Bhajanti. Bhajanti means what? It can be called as worshipping also. At the same time, Bhajanti means they are committed to me. They are committed in knowing me. How? Ananya Manasaha. Their minds do not get distracted to any finite goals or finite ends. They are not jumping from one desire to the other desire to fulfill this or that. They are not jumping from one deity to the other deity with various kinds of offerings to get their desires fulfilled. They are not like that. But Ananya Manasaha, they are completely committed to knowing me in my reality, in my real nature. Ananya Manasa, not distracted by anything, not distracted by any kind of finite goals. And what do they want to know? Nyatva Bhutadim Avyayam. They want to know me who is Avyayam Bhutadi Avyayam. They want to know me as what? Who is this Avyaya or imperishable Tattva, which is the very seed of all the Bhutas? Which is this imperishable Nitya Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma? What is this? What is this Brahma Swarupam that Vedanta is talking about? I should know about it. So they want to know me as Bhutadim Avyayam, as that principle, imperishable and eternal principle, which is the very origin of the entire universe. They want to know me. Now, how do they know me? What is it they do to know me? That is told in the 14th verse. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dhridavrataha namasyan namasyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. Now he says nityayuktaha. That means those who are committed and those who are together, in the sense those who are having adequate preparation of the intellect by chitta shuddhi and chitta naischalyam, having enough of discipline and commitment and committed to me. Nitya yuktaha bhaktya upasate. With bhakti they upasate or they connect to me. Now we will talk about what this bhakti is. In the next verse he talks about the details of this, what this bhakti is, in the next verse. And what does he say? What kind of, how do they do it? Satatam kirtayantaha. They are all the time talking about me, thinking about me. In the sense, Ananya Manasaha, he said. That means all the time, whatever they are doing, whatever may be the work that they are assigned by Ishvara, they may be a householder, he may be a teacher, he may be a vanaprasthi, he may be a sannyasi, whatever it is, whatever may be his ashrama, whatever may be his varna, in whichever aspect of life he is, whatever he's doing as his regular work that he's doing, in and through that, satatam kirtayantaha. He's all the time in the background, he's all the time thinking of me, he's all the time connected to me. How is he connected to me? In the form of however and in whatever way Vedas, Vedanta talk about me, which they have heard by Shravanam, through the Guru, by study of Shastra. Guru Mukhena Shastra Adhyanam. Satatam Kirthayantaha. That means what? All the time, Satatam, they are thinking about me. Kirtayanta means they're talking about me, discussing about me, thinking about me. They're all the time ruminating. You can call it a nididhyasana. They're all the time doing nididhyasana about my real nature. And yatantascha dhridavrataha. Who are these? Dhrida-vritaha. That means they have made up their mind. Dhrida-vrita. The ones who have committed themselves with commitment to know me and who try to understand me by constant nididhyasanam satatam kirtayantaha and also yatantaschaha. What are these people who are, yatantaschaha? What is the meaning of this? This means those people who not only have prepared their intellects with Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, Chitta Shuddhi, Chitta Naischalyam, but also who have imbibed all the values that are necessary for understanding this knowledge. And Acharya Bhagavan Shankaracharya says in his Bhashyam, what he says, Yatantaha cha means Indriya Upasamhara Shama Dama Daya Ahimsadi Lakshanaihi Dharmaihi Prayatantaha. Those who are living a life of dharma, a dharmic life, which is full of all values like shama, dama, daya, ahimsa. So they are living this life of values. Such are the people who are called as yatantaschaha, and they want to know me and they are constantly thinking of me bhaktya. Now we have to understand what bhakti is. Now, bhakti, according to the real meaning of bhakti, in as Acharya Shankara says, is he says that swarupa anusandhanam is bhakti. Swaswarupa anusandhanam. Now we can explain bhakti as a commitment to Ishvara, bringing Ishvara as much as possible in my life. It could be Saguna Ishvara. Now, in the next verse, he'll tell, Krishna himself will tell how one can bring Ishvara in one's life in what different forms. What kinds, three kinds of bhakti, which he mentions here in the next verse, which is explained in great detail in the 12th verse, the three different kinds of bhakti. Bhakti merely means connecting oneself with Ishvara and surrendering to that principle called as Ishvara. That is bhakti. And when you want to know your true nature, when you want to know the Swarupam of Brahman, that is also bhakti. Therefore, a karma yogi is also a bhakta. Without bhakti or without connecting to Ishvara, there can be no karma yoga. Without connecting to Ishvara, there can be no upasana. Without connecting to Ishvara, there cannot be jnana yoga. Without connecting to Ishvara, there cannot be nididhyasana yoga. Therefore, whoever is wanting to know Brahman or Ishvara as a mumukshu, in every step of his or her sadhana, there is a deep connection and surrender to that principle called as Ishvara, which at present I may not know what it is, but I know that there is a principle called Ishvara, which is the very adhishtanam of this entire Jagat. At present, I do not know what it is, but according to the Shastras, I am trying to follow this path of Karma Yoga, Upasana, and Jnana Yoga to know this Ishvara in its absolute and real nature, and I need to be connected to that Ishvara. Like a guru used to always say, bringing Ishvara as much as possible into your life at every stage, at every minute of your life is bhakti. Just singing or doing bhajans or the say, that's also an expression of bhakti. 9 types of bhaktis are mentioned, actually, Navavida bhakti. But then in terms of how Vedanta describes, bhakti is swarupa anusandhanam, trying to know the true swarupa, the nature of Ishvara and myself, passing through these various stages. And at every stage, a mumukshu is a bhakta. Therefore, there is nothing separate called as a bhakti yoga. Bhakti is in and through all the levels of one's sadhana. Though the 12th chapter is called Bhakti Yoga, because Krishna wants to explain these 3 types of bhaktis, which he's going to talk about in the next verse in great detail. But then, bhakti is not one separate sadhana. Bhakti is an integral sadhana in and through the entire journey of a mumukshu. So now, in the next verse, Krishna wants to say, Bhagavan wants to say, what are the three different types of bhaktas are there who connect to me? What are the three different types of bhaktis? How a person can satatam kirtayantaha? In what way? Okay, he talks about three ways. Okay, he says now next one. Jnana yagnena chapanye यजन्तो मामुपासते एकत्वेन पृथक्त्वेन बहुधा विश्वतो मुखम्. So here Lord Krishna is not only introducing Vishwarupa Darshanam, but he's also introducing the I won't say types of bhaktis, but the three aspects of bhaktis, or three aspects of bhakti, how people are connecting themselves to Ishvara in three different ways. And those three aspects of bhakti are being mentioned here. Bhakti is one. I mean, don't take it as three bhaktis. It is just three ways in which one connects to Ishvara. Now he says, first jnana yagnena, and connect it to the word ekatvena. Jnana yagnena ekatvena. That means by this jnana yagna, a person who has prepared his mind and intellect sufficiently by karma yoga and upasana yoga gets into jnana yoga, jnana yagnena, jnana yogena, wants to know me as the one and the only consciousness principle which is behind everything as Brahman, Ekatvena, as one and the only. Sat eva saumya idamagra asid, says Chandogya Upanishad. There is only one thing which was there, which is there, and which will continue to exist. Nityam, Achalam, okay, Anadi Anantam, Chirantanam, Sanatanam, Brahma Ekatvena. So this is the highest. That's what is being talked about in the 9th chapter. So those who have already gone through the first two steps of sadhana of Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, they get into Jnana Yoga, and through Jnana Yoga, here he calls Jnana Yoga as Jnana Yajna, Jnana Yogena, Guru Mukhena Shastra Shravanam Adhyayanam. By that, this Jnana Yogi wants to know me Ekatvena, as one consciousness principle which is behind the entire manifestation. But then it is not possible for everybody to do that, and I may be still in the first rung or the second rung of the ladder as a karma yogi or an upasaka. Then how do I connect? What is my bhakti? What is my aspect of bhakti here? You see the word prithakvena. Prithakvena means separately, as God or Ishvara with a name and form. My Ishtadevata. Okay, a separate, I have a name and form. Rama, Devi, Krishna, whatever it is. This is my Ishtadevata. I give a separate name and form, Prithakvena. And that particular name and form is my window of connection to Ishvara. So initially, beginning, when I cannot understand the Vishwato Mukha or Vishwarupa of Ishvara, when I'm not able to understand that Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Nityam, Achalam, Brahma, in the very first step, as a Karma Yogi also, what do? I have a particular Ishta Devata with the name and form with whom I connect as Ishvara. So Prithakvena. Then there is one more word here. Bahudha Vishwato Mukham. Bahudha Vishwato Mukham means there are people later on as Upasakas learn to see me as everything in the Jagat. Whatever they see in the Jagat, every Nama Rupa is nothing but my manifestation. This is what Krishna is going to talk about in the 10th chapter, 11th chapter, 12th chapter. So now Bhagavan Krishna wants to introduce this Vishwarupa. So there are three ways in which a bhakta, a mumukshu connects to Ishvara. Prithakvena, with a simple name and form in which Bhagavan, my Ishtadevata, is different, I am different. I am offering everything to you and you are going to take care of me. Prithakvena. Then Bahuda Vishvato Mukham. Second stage, where I see everything as Ishvara, including my own body, mind, sense complex. I see all the objects, all the jivas, everything as Ishvara. That is what is called as Bahuda, Vishvarupa or Aneka Rupa Ishvara Bhakti. The first is called as Ekarupa Ishvara Bhakti. One form, one name dedicated to that, Ekarupa Ishvara Bhakti. Then slowly the karma yogi transcends and goes to a higher level of understanding Ishvara, and as an upasaka he goes beyond the single form of his Ishtadevata and starts seeing the whole universe, manifest and unmanifest, as Sarvam Ishvaramayam Jagat. For this upasaka, for this Aneka Rupa Ishvara Bhakta or Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakta, everything that is in and around him is Ishvara. This body, mind, sense sense complex is Ishvara. Whatever I see outside, any object, living or non-living, Sthavara, Jangama, everything is Ishvara's manifestation. Every situation that comes in one's life is Ishvara Sankalpa. Everything that is happening is Ishvara Sankalpa. So the whole thing, every day in his life, everything that comes, everything that happens, everything he comes across, he takes as it is Ishvara's manifestation, Ishvara's Sankalpa, which is called as Aneka Rupa Ishvara Bhakti or Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakti, which Krishna here talks about. Bahudha Vishwato Mukham. Vishwato Mukham means he sees that Lord everywhere. Sometimes an upasaka may see his Ishta Devata as everything. My Rama is everywhere. You have seen so many of our, bhakti sahitya, wherever I see Rama, the Rama Bhakta, like for example, our, so many of our musicians, talk about these things. Krishna's Kanakadasa, Purandardas, they see that Krishna everywhere, Vitala everywhere. So this is Vishwatomukha or Aneka Rupa Bhakti. They are not restricted to only that one form as God or as Ishvara. Everything that appears is nothing but the manifestation of Ishvara. Then the last stage of a Jnana Yogi is what is that which is the underlying principle of this Ishvara, which is manifesting as the entire universe. That consciousness, whatever it is, that existence, whatever it is, that Sanatanam Brahma, I must know what it is. And that kind of a commitment to knowing it by Jnana Yoga, Guru Mukhena, Ekatvena. Okay, Ekatvena means Arupa Ishvara Bhakti. So, Arupa or Nirguna Brahma or Ishvara Bhakti. Here, Nirguna Ishvara is called as Jnanam and not Bhakti. That is why Bhakti and Jnanam at that stage become one and the same. That's why Lord Krishna says, Jnani tu me priyaha. He's my favorite because why? Mama Atma eva. The Jnani is me. That's why the Jnani Bhakta is my favorite. Okay, Artha Bhakta are also favorites of mine. Artharthis are also loved by me. Jignasu Bhakta is also loved by me. But a Jnani Bhakta is the true Bhakta, a real Bhakta, where Jnanam and Bhakti have merged. There is no difference at that stage. In a Jnana Yogi, in a Jnani is a Bhakta par excellence. Okay, a karma yogi and an upasaka can be a little bit wavering bhakta. Once in a way, he may lose his faith in his Ishta Devata and bhakti. No, bhakti may take a backseat sometime, but not so in a Jnana yogi. Bhakti and Jnanam in a Jnani are like the two sides of a coin. There cannot be Jnanam without bhakti. There cannot be bhakti without Jnanam. Therefore, Ekatvena, Arupa Ishvara Bhakti or Arupa or Nirguna Brahma Jnanam is the final, the subtlest and the highest form of bhakti. Whereas the bhakta who's using Prithakvena means having one God, as that is my only God, that is no other God is God, Ishvara. My God only is God. That is why, when we do Shankaracharya Ashtottara, there is one name which says Shanmatha Sthapana. Why did he do this Shanmatha Sthapana? Shankaracharya felt that people were fighting in the name of their Ishta Devatas. If I am a Vishnu Bhakta, Vishnu is the only God, Shiva is not God. A Shiva Bhakta says Shiva is the only Ishvara, nobody else. So what did Shankaracharya do? Acharya Bhagavan Shankara felt that one can connect to Ishvara in any form. Rama is a name and form. Krishna is a name and form. Shiva is a name and form. Therefore, he said, I will establish 6 matas, Shan Mata Sthapana, where all the gods or all the names and forms which are worshipped as nothing but the manifestation of Ishvara. Therefore, there is no fight between Ishvara, Shiva Bhaktas and Vishnu Bhaktas. No fight between Ganapatyas and these Shaktyas. Okay, no fight between the Surya Upasakas and somebody else Shakti Upasaka. So he formulated those Shan Mathas. Now, from now onwards, after having given an idea of the 3 ways in which a bhakta can connect, we can call it as the Ekarupa Ishvara Bhakti, Anekarupa or Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakti, Nirguna Brahma or Arupa Ishvara Bhakti. Now Krishna wants to stress more on Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakti or Anekarupa Ishvara Bhakti, because this now, from now onwards, this is like an introduction. Slowly he is transiting into the 10th chapter of Vibhuti Yoga and 11th chapter of Vishwa Darshanam, Darshana Yoga. So he's going to slowly talk now in the next 2 verses. He's only going to talk about what? Vishwarupa Ishvara Darshanam or Bhakti. So the next verse he says, Aham kraturaham yajnaha swadaham aushadham mantroham ahame vajyam aham agniraham hutam. So in Vishwarupa Bhakti, now Lord Krishna is talking about the most common Vaidika activity or karma, and he talks about the yajna or a kratu, and in that form he talks about I am everything. Remember Brahmarpanam Brahma Havihi, where Krishna said Brahman is everything. Here Krishna is talking, he's taking the same context of a Vaidika karma and talking about Ishvara as everything manifest in everything. Next 2-3 verses are going to talk about that. So here he says, Aham, here he is talking as Ishvara. Aham kratuhu. What is kratuhu? Shrauta karma, or the karmas or the yajnas or the yagas that are talked about in the Vedas. I am that very karma which is prescribed by the Vedas. Aham yajnaha. A yajna is a smartha karma described in the Smriti Granthas. I am also the activity or the karma prescribed by the Smriti Granthas. Swadha aham. Swadha means what? Offering given to the Pitrus. When you do the Pitru karma, whatever oblations or offerings, pinda danam, tarpana danam that you are doing, that offering is called as Swadha. When you offer something to the Devatas, it is called as Swaha. Okay? In Sahasranamas we get that. One thing you can see that all our Sahasranamas, Lalita Sahasranama, Vishnu Sahasranama, Shiva Sahasranama, all the Sahasranamas are talking about Vishwarupa Darshana, because they are talking about every deity as nothing but the Vishwarupa. So here, Svada Aham, I am the offering given to the Pitrus at the time of Pitru Karmas. Aushadam Aham, I am the food. Here, Aushada means food. In the earlier days, food was supposed to be the Aushadha. But right now, what has happened? Aushadas have become the food. But then, Aushadha is called as Aushadha. It also means medicine, but food being considered as medicine. Now here, Aushadha means food. Oshadhi means plants. That which comes from the plants is the food. Therefore, in our culture, Aushadha, Oshadhayaha, food is supposed to be vegetarian because it comes from the plant kingdom. So Oshadam means I am the very annam, I am the very sustaining principle or food. Then mantroham, I am the mantras that are used at the time of any of the Shrauta karma or Smarta karma. Ahameva ajyam, I am that oblation which is given in the form of ajya. What is ajya? Melted butter. Ajya is not ghee. Ghee is ghritam. Ajya is melted butter. And how is it melted? At the time of Eri Yajna, the butter has to be kept in the sunlight, and it is the sun's rays and heat which melt the butter into ghee that is offered into any of the, Shrauta karma, Smarta karma, in any of these yajnas. That is why it is called as ajyam. It is not ghritam. But in today's yajnas, we buy a packet of ghee from any dairy and put it. That is convenience. But actually, from Vaidika point of view, ajyam means melted butter in natural heat of the sun. Then aham agnihi. I am the Agni Swarupa. I am that Agni into which the oblations are offered. Agni aham hutam. That which is offered into the Agni as Swaha. Okay, Indraya Swaha, Agnaye Swaha, Varunaya Swaha. All that hutam, that which is given, I am. So I am every component of every yaga yajna. Similar to Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, 24th verse of the 4th chapter. It is the same thing. Then he goes again to describe his Vishwato Mukha or Vishwarupa Darshana here, or that I am everything. That is Aneka Rupa Ishvara for a Bhakta. Now he is describing how a Bhakta, how an Aneka Rupa or Vishwarupa Bhakta should see me, should look at me, should connect to me. So in the next verse, in the 17th verse, Lord Krishna says, Pita hamasya jagataha Mata dhata pitamaha Vedyam pravipavitramomkaraha Riksamaya jurevacha. So Pita aham asya jagataha. I am the very seed of this universe in the form of the Nimitta Karanam, consciousness or Para Prakriti Brahman. Mata, in the form, I am that Apara Prakriti or Maya who is responsible for the actual creation of this entire universe. Okay, aham mata jagatasya, aham pita jagatasya. See, even like say, even when a human being gives birth to an offspring or anything, okay, the father, the seed principle, mother is the kshetra principle in which the conceptus or the fetus is conceived. Now, does the father know or the mother know how the fetus is growing inside? How that baby is growing inside? Who is it? What is it that is making that whole thing happen in a certain way? In the same way, in every species, how many months it has to be there? At which month, what has to develop? How many cells have to be formed? When a particular organ has to be formed? Do we know that? Does a mother know what is happening? For those 9 months, no. She only knows that she's carrying that child inside. Does she know what all changes are happening? No. Does the father know? No. Then what is it that the father and the mother are mere instruments? And what is it that is taking care of the entire process of pregnancy and delivery and getting a new embodied jiva? Who is responsible? Ishvara. It is Ishvara's work. Ishvara through me, through a body of a man and woman or a male and female, is bringing forth another body into existence. So what is my role here? Nothing. I am just a partner to Ishvara. The parents are mere partners. All the work is done by Ishvara. So he says that Mata Dhata. Okay, what is the meaning of Dhata here? I am the Dhata here. Mata Dhata Dhata. Dhata means Karma Phala Dhata. For a particular being to be born as a particular body in a particular desha, kala, vartamana, ultimately what brings that jiva into that particular situation? Karma phala, correct? So I am the karma phala data to see that the appropriate jiva is born in an appropriate body, in an appropriate time, in an appropriate place, with the appropriate group of people to complete the karma phala according to the law of karma. Therefore, as the law of karma, I am karma phala dhata. Pitamaha, I am the grandfather also. Pitamaha. Vedyam, I am the only one to be known, the highest truth to be known through the Vedas, Vedyam. Pavitram Omkaram. I am that Omkara, that syllable which is Pavitram, which we saw in detail in the 8th chapter also. I am that very Omkara, which is the very Abhidhanam of the entire Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti also. I am that sacred symbol Omkara which is used by the Upasakas. Then I am the Rigveda, I am the Samaveda, I am the Yajurveda. All the three Vedas I am. Through me the Vedas have come and you know me through the Vedas. Okay, that is why in Brahma Sutra, the third sutra of the first chapter, first adhikaranam is the third adhikaranam is what they say is Shastra Yonitvat. Brahman is known through Shastra, but from where the Shastras have come? The Shastras have come through Brahman. That is why it is called as Shastra Yonitvat. Shastra is the yoni of Brahman, to know Brahman. At the same time, Brahman is the yoni or the karanam for the Shastra. Therefore, I am the Rik, Yajur and Samavedas. And again, some more. What I am. He is going to talk about it in the next verse. In the 18th verse, he said, Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Suhrit Prabhava Pralayasthanam Nidhanam Bijam Avyayam. Again, I'm all these things because Krishna wants to talk about, him or Ishvara as everything in the Jagat. So he's using some of these things. And in the 10th chapter, he will go more in detail of what all are his manifestation. And same thing in the 11th chapter also. Now he says, Gatihi and Bharta. Gatihi means what? Karma phalam is called as Gatihi. Ultimately, the Gati of a Jiva is determined by the Karma phala. Isn't it? It is my karma phala, my sanchita karma, my prarabdha karma, which determines my gati as to where I should be born, where this jiva should embody itself, what should happen to it. So I am the karma phala. I am existing in the law of karma as karma phala. I am the bharta. I am the karma bharta. Means what? I am bharta means I am the karma phala data. I am the karma phala and I am the karma phala data. What we saw in the previous verse also, data. I am also the karma phala. I am also the dhata and also prabhuhu. Prabhuhu means what? The one who is capable of being a karma phala and karma phala data. Prabhuhu, prabhavaha. Absolutely capable of being a karma phala data with my capable law of karma. All these three refer to law of karma. Karma phala data, and absolutely, what you call very, very precise without doing any mistake, precise and capable of being a karma phala dhata. At the same time, I don't get involved by the karmas done by people. Therefore, who am I? I'm a sakshi. I'm just, maya adhyakshena, in my adhyaksha, in my viewership, in my supervision, everything is happening. Sakshi. There is an Upanishad called Shvetashvatara Upanishad which says Sakshi Cheta Kevalaha Nirgunascha. Okay, so who is this? Who am I? In spite of all this karma, I am a mere witness, Sakshi. Nidhanam. Nidhanam means what? I am a repository of everything. Bijam, Bijam Avyayam, he says in the next one. I am the repository. I am the repository, the Bijam, the seed, which can give rise to the whole manifest universe, Nidhanam, the repository of everything that is to manifest. Bijam, again, Nidhanam, Bijam, both did the same. Avyayam. Avyayam means like the regular seed which dies when it, becomes a sapling. but I am the bija, which is constantly giving, I am the repository and constantly giving rise to the manifest universe using my Maya, my Shakti, my Maya. At the same time, I remain avyayam. I never get destroyed. I am never, I never get spent out. I continue to remain in the seed form in spite of continuously manifesting the whole universe. I am still the avyayam bijam of this entire universe. Now he wants to talk about certain physical laws that we see in the universe as nothing but Ishvara. Law of karma was talked about here. He talked about as he's that Krishna, Ishvara is the very Mata Pita, or what you call as the very bijam, or the origination or the karanam of this entire jagat. Now, he wants to talk about certain cosmic laws in the next verse, where he takes rain, as one of the cosmic, things that are happening. Here he says that tapamya maham varsham, tapamiya maham varsham, nigranyamutssrijami cha, amritam chaiva mrityuscha, sadasachaham Arjuna. Hey Arjuna, tapami, okay, aham, tapami. That means what? I energize the whole universe in the form of sun. Okay, I am manifesting as Lord Sun. That is why sun is worshipped as Pratyaksha Ishvara, Surya Narayana, is worshipped, even Gayatri, all it's worship of sun, because sun is the energizer of the entire universe. It is the sun because of which the Oshadis are capable of preparing the food. It is the sunlight because of which all the jivas get up and start working. Therefore, tapami, what am I doing? I am energizing the entire universe in the form of sun. And then what do I do in the form of Surya Bhagavan? I absorb all the water. Okay, what do I do? Absorb all the water. Varsham nigranami. The waters of the oceans are absorbed by my light and my heat, the sunlight. And then what do I do? Utsrajami cha. In the form of rain, I give it back. I, as the sunlight, I, as the energy in the sun, not only energize the entire Jagat and Jivas, but Nigranami, I absorb. Varsham Nigranami means Nigranami what? All the apaha, it means all the waters, especially the sea waters, are absorbed by me, and Varsham Utsrajami cha. In the form of rain, I am giving that back. So I am in the form of all the cosmic laws, whether it is sun, whether it is sun, the movement of the planets, movements of the universe, movement of the entire universe, whether it is the laws of seasons, whether it's the sun, whether it's the rain, whatever it is, I am in the form of all cosmic laws, and I am the one who absorbs the water and releases it back in the form of what? In the form of rain. Then who am I? Amritam. I am the one who is the life principle. Amritam makes people survive and live. Amritam chaiva mrityuscha. I am also the one, who is coming back again and again in the form of various body, mind, sense complexes and resolving them back into me. I not only nourish the entire Jagat and all the Jivas and give them life, Amritam. At the same time, I am also the one who brings back all the Jivas into the cycles of repeated births and deaths. So, in the form of cosmic laws, I am also the cosmic law of sustenance, and then ultimately the cycle of birth and death. Then, Sad Asatcha Aham Arjuna. Hey Arjuna, I am the manifest universe also, what is called as the Murta Prapancha. Here Sat and Asat should not be taken as Satya Mitya. Here Sat and asad means Murta Prapancha, Amurta Prapancha. What is the meaning of Murta Prapancha? That universe which is manifesting in a solid name and form which is perceptible. This is called as the Murta Prapancha or called as Sat. Asat means Amurta Prapancha. That part of the universe which is not available for my identification through any of the sense organs. So what are they? Vayu is not available for me to objectify. Space is not available for me to objectify. Correct? And when at the time of pralaya, the whole universe is in a potential form, it is not available for me to objectify. That which is yet to appear, that which is still in a potential form and not yet manifested, that is not available for my sense organs to objectify. Correct? So, who am I? I am the manifest Murta Prapancha. I am also the unmanifest Amurta Prapancha also. Okay, so this is what I am as Vishwarupa. Till this 19th verse, Lord Krishna talks about his manifestation in the form of Aneka Rupa Ishvara Darshanam or Vishwarupa Ishvara Darshanam for the sake of those upasakas who are Aneka Rupa or Vishwarupa upasakas. Now, what he says is, he brings about another concept here where he says, any of these bhaktas can connect to me either as Ekarupa Ishvara Bhaktihi, that means what? Prithakvena, or Anekarupa Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhaktas, they may be, or Nirguna Brahma. There we need not go. We can only go to these. Those who are worshipping me as one individual form, and those who are able to see me as everything in the Jagat. So, Ekarupa, Anekarupa, Ishvara, Darshana, Upasakas, they can connect to me for various reasons. Their bhakti can be a Sakama bhakti or a Nishkama bhakti. So, here Bhagwan wants to talk about not only the three aspects of bhakti, but then any of these bhaktas, especially the Prithakvena and Bahudha, these two, that is Ekarupa Ishvara and Vishwarupa Ishvara bhaktas, can be Sakama bhaktas, they can be Nishkama bhaktas. Sakama means what? For attaining something, which is finite, which is a material goal. And who are these people? And what happens to such people's, pursuit of connecting with me for the sake of finite ends? What happens to them is being talked about in the next two verses. So he says, Traividyamam Soma Traividyamam Soma Paputa Papaha Yagnairishtva Swargatim Prarthayante Te Punyamasadhya Surendra Lokam Ashnanti Divyan Divibdeva Bhogan. This is the Trishtup Chandas, suddenly he has changed from Anushtup to Trishtup Chandas. Now what he says, those who are following the karmas that are enjoined in the Veda Purva portions of the three Vedas, Traividya, and those who do, an example of Soma Yaga is given here. Those who offer the Soma or the extract of the Soma as an Ahuti in the Soma Yaga and consume the remaining as Yajna Shishta, as a Yajna Prasada, the same Soma, they are called as Puta Papaha. That means by that particular yajna, they have gained an innumerable amount of punya they have gained. There are certain yagas and yajnas by doing which a karta gets the amount of punya which can take him to the highest lokas or the swarga. So these kind of yagas are basically done for attainment of higher lokas by sakama upasakas. So they are puta papahas, those whose papas have been cleared, those who have gained immense punya. What happens to them? Yagnaihi ishtva swargatim prarthayante. What do they pray for? They do Somayaga and pray for what? Swargati, for higher lokas and swarga. What happens to them? They punya masadhya. They accrue so much of punya through that particular yaga. are cleared of their papas. Surendra lokam ashnanti. Surendra, Deva lokam, Indra lokam, Swarga lokam ashnanti. Enjoy all the good things, bhogas of Indra loka. Divyan, Divi Deva bhogan. When does this happen? First one has to die. You can't do that when you are alive. Those who have done the Soma Yaga properly in this life, when they die, they go to the Surendra Loka or Deva Loka and partake or experience all the bhogas of Indra Loka or Swarga Loka. This is a Sakama Bhakta because he's doing all these Veda Vihita yagas, yagnas, and karmas for what? To get higher lokas, to get finite. Even higher lokas are finite. We saw that, isn't it, in the 8th chapter? Abrahma Bhuvana Lokan Punaravartinorjuna. From Brahma Loka onwards, every loka, every higher loka, wherever you go, it is finite. You have to come back. So, what happens to these people who have done yagas and yajnas like Somayaga and who have accrued such immense punya that automatically after the death of this body, they attain the Devaloka or Swargaloka? What happens to them? He says that also is so temporary. So he says in the next verse, in the 21st verse, he says, Tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति एवं त्रैधर्म्यमनुप्रपन्नाः गतागतं कामकामा लभन्ते. So, te, those puta papaha, somapaha, those who have done the somayaga, drunk, or who have partaken the somarasa as a yajna shishta, they, what happens? They go to Surendra Loka or Deva Loka. Tam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. Vishalam swargalokam bhuktva. To go there and to enjoy the Swargaloka Sukham, you have to pay in the currency of punya. All the punya that you have gained by doing all your yaga yajnas are the currency which you are paying for every bhoga that you are experiencing in the Swargaloka. So, Tetam Bhuktva, having gone through Swargalokam Vishalam, Kshine Punye, when your currency of punya is over, when it is finished, you have spent your currency of punya. Kshine punye, what happens to them? Martya loke vishanti, they come back again. They come back again to the same Martya loka or bhuloka. Yevam, in this way, Traidharmyam Traidharmyam Anuprapannaha. Anuprapannaha, those who have taken refuge to the Veda Purva portion of the three Vedas and done all the yajnas and yagas properly in the way they have been described, but with the Sakama Bhakti, for the sake of individual bhogas, material bhogas, to be experienced as the result of their yaga yajnas. Ultimately, what are they? Kama kamaha, that's all. They are basically only those people who attain their desire, gata gatam. They come and go. They attain, they are kama kamas. That means they're desiring for something. They get their desire fulfilled. Once their desire is fulfilled, once the currency of punya is over, they again come back to the mrityu, martya loka, to the human or the earthly existence. Therefore, what is the purpose? All the effort that you have put in following the, nothing wrong, nothing wrong. What Lord Krishna is saying is, Sakama Bhakti has a limitation. Sakama Bhakti will give you what you want. Veda Purva is only telling you that. No problem. Do all these yajnas and yagas. Reach those lokas where you want. Whether you have Putra Yeshana or Loka Yeshana or Vitta Yeshana, whatever it is, fulfill them. But understand one thing, that they are all limited. They are not finite. They are finite. They are not infinite. They're absolutely limited and finite. And once you have exhausted the currency of your punya, you're going to come back again to the same earthly existence. And if you want to completely get out of this gata-gatam circle, then you have to know me as Brahma Swarupam. And therefore, your bhakti has to be a Nishkama bhakti. So, what happens to those people who are connecting to me either as Ekarupa Ishvara Bhakti, Anekarupa Ishvara Bhakti, or Arupa or Nirguna Brahma as bhaktas? Nishkama bhaktas, what is the result? That is what is going to be talked about from the 22nd verse. Very, very famous verse, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham Ananyas Chintayantoma. It's talking about a Nishkama Bhakta, which will take up in the next session. ॐ नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुस्तदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।